Welcome back. I'm here with Michael Blake of Maverick Exteriors. Michael, give us a little overview. You have an interesting story because you didn't necessarily start right away in the trades. Walk us through how you went from sort of college to the Marines into the business world.
Yeah, I was born and raised here in Kansas City, in Overland Park, Leawood area. And after high school, my friends always knew I wanted to join the military and stuff. And my parents were well enough to pay for my college, and so they were like, "Listen, we think it's smart for you to go to college first." And so I figured out the easiest degree of political science, and I went there. And long story short, I partied my ass off for 4 years and worked like a dog at the bar and made a lot of money, but school was not for me. So my second semester of senior year in college, dropped out, and then it went full force in the military. I started training and I stopped partying and I stopped, basically got my life in track at 21 years old, 22 years old. So then joined the military in April of 2021, just after COVID. Went to boot camp, and then I enlisted as a machine gunner and got stationed in Camp Pendleton, California. So South Orange County, North San Diego County. Yeah, I was in Second Battalion, First Marines there. Started off as a young little Lance Corporal, and I was in the CAT platoon. It's a combined anti-armor team. So our job was to go out and find enemy armor and basically take them out, and then also support follow-on forces like your riflemen who are kicking the doors in and things like that. So more of a support asset, but did that for 4 years and deployed over to the Pacific, kind of Australia, Asia area, Japan. Had a phenomenal time. Went over there on the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. Was on the USS Green Bay and USS New Orleans. So that was pretty cool. There's a cool documentary on Netflix right now too. If you haven't seen it, it tours the whole deployment that the 31st MU does. It's really boring, but it's pretty cool because they brought Netflix in, and it actually makes me kind of miss it a little bit.
No kidding. I'll have to
Yeah,
watch
no,
that.
pretty cool. It's on Netflix right now, so I actually knew some guys in it as well. But yeah, I did that. Had a phenomenal time out in California, and loved the weather and loved the towns, and it was a great place to be stationed. And my last year in the Marines, I went over to a unit to be a combat skills instructor. And so basically, I would teach office Marines that do accounting and cooks and all motor transport guys who are not in the combat MOSs. We would basically just tune them up and, and take them
Hmm.
on runs and teach them how to shoot guns and things like that. And so I was able to teach over, I want to say 2,000 Marines in a span of a year. And so I took my skills from my CAT platoon as far as like moving vehicles around and things like that. And so I would take these guys through courses and teach them how to react to drills and things like that. So that was my last year. And then, yeah, got out, and I was kind of in a crossroad when I was getting out. And my uncle, he's 7 years old, and he's been doing roofing for 30 years. And kind of circle back, I've been doing landscaping and lawn mowing since I was 13 years old. And so that kind of blue collar trade was really appealing to me. I didn't like sitting in an office. Like, it's killing me being in an office today. I like don't know what to do with my hands like or anything. But yeah, that was kind of the path that I took, was a little bit more outside physical labor kind of things. And my brother was living in Austin, and he was kind of freelancing around trying to figure out his groove. And we kind of had this family come together saying, "Hey, we think, Michael, I think with your military side, and my brother Jack's very into tech and AI like you guys are, and figuring out how to make things simpler." And we just kind of were like, "Well, my uncle's pen and paper, and we got, me military, I could go sales side, understand how to manage people and production, and that translates really well from the military to something like roofing. And he's got the tech side, and so we kind of just came together and we're like, dude, let's let's go buy a roofing company. Like, let's buy our my uncle's roofing company. And, my uncle's still on with us today, and he'll be on probably the next 5, 6, 7 years until he gets just way too old that he just doesn't want to do anything besides play with grandkids. Um, and so, yeah, we just full sent it and did seller financing with him, and we worked out a deal to pay him, and however much longer he wants to stay on, or even if he retires, he still gets paid as well. But it's a family business, and he's my uncle and love him dearly, and so he's been teaching me everything, teaching Jack everything as far as industry knowledge and standards, and how to sell, particularly roofs, how to and not just sell roofs, how to do it the right way. Um, and taking all that knowledge as a 7-year-old man with so much under his belt that he just spreads it on to the next generation. So that's kind of how we've been doing it. And so I've been attached to his hip on the production and sales side for the last 6 to 8 months, and it's been an absolute ride. It's been so much fun. Lot to do, a lot to learn from. Made some mistakes, but it's been an absolute blast. So it's kind of the background on that.
That's awesome. So, I mean, there's a couple ways I want to take this. There's obviously the Marine moving into business ownership side and the lessons you're able to carry over. But you hear a lot about seller financing today. There's so many sort of online influencers who are saying, go buy a business, go buy a business and do it through seller financing. Not often do you hear somebody who's actually has done it and has the, recent experience. Walk me through what that process was like from a tactical perspective. If you were to, instruct somebody, hey, I want to seller finance a business. Obviously, you had a great situation where the business was right there and the opportunity may be easier than somebody who just is wanting to find a random business. But what did you learn from that experience? What advice would you give somebody? And maybe the things you did right and something you did wrong or something that somebody should avoid.
Well, I'm not going to give all the credit to me because I'll be honest, I was just some corporal in the Marine Corps that was teaching guys how to shoot guns and inflict hate on people. And so I had no idea about seller financing. The biggest asset that I had was my father. Him running a $200 million an asset company. He was owned a travel agency. He was the one that was like, hey, I think we can do it this way, and it was all based off a book called Main Street Millionaire. If you guys haven't read Main Street Millionaire, I 100% would. It's how we've structured a lot of our business. I've even passed it on to multiple friends too. But basically, the first thing it talks about is finding someone like my uncle, who's 70 years old, who is still bringing a successful business, and having that asset of him, my uncle, still staying on for the next 6 to 7 years. He's only making a certain amount, and then plus his percentage in sales too. But having him to, I call it the handoff, to do the handoff between young and old, or sorry, from old and young, right? So having him was the biggest asset that we have. And then also having my father, who read the book. He also did this in some of his businesses. So he just didn't want to see us make the mistakes that he did when he was younger. And I can't sit here and say, hey, this was all me and my brother, because it wasn't. The biggest thing that I think parents do to all their kids is pass on their knowledge. And my dad had a ton of knowledge in business, and so it's translated very well to my brother and I, and it just comes naturally. But yeah, I mean, if people aren't familiar with seller financing, they should be, because it's one of those things that says, hey, if you find a successful business and you're able to just talk to that business owner and be like, hey man, like, let's get to know each other. Like, this is not, you're not like some salesman coming up to a business saying, hey, I want to buy you. Like, when you're trying to buy a business, you want to know, like, hey Garrett, what do you like to do? Like, what is your interest? Like, how's your family? Tell me how this business started. Like, people really dive into it. And so the first step was done, is we had my dad, who had seller financing. He knew how to do it. And then my uncle, who was the old business owner who wanted to sell. And the third thing is find someone who's going to run it, who's interested in it. And that's obviously me and my brother. And so all three of those things are key to it. You gotta have someone who's successful, bringing in business, who can teach and mentor you, and also you just got to really be passionate about it.
Hmm. In For the people who have literally no idea what we're talking about, seller financing is the concept of, as opposed to coming up and saying, here's a massive lump sum of money, give me your business and you walk away. You basically give them that money over a period of times through the
Mhm.
revenue that the business generates. Would you say that's a fair description of it?
Yeah, 100%. So the way that we structured ours up is we said, "Hey, Bob, we're going to sell your business for X amount of dollars, and then we'll put you on like a 10-year contract. So that way, if you quit in 2 years, you still get paid every single month for not doing anything. But he's our uncle, so he's going to stay on and he's going to help build up his baby and transfer it to us, right? And so, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's saying, hey, instead of buying your company for $10 million right now, I'm going to pay you over the next 10 years, and whether you stay on and help me or you just quit, it's up to you. But this is how I finance you, and it would be in it also be in the seller's interest to help you because if the business tanks, what good does it do? And so it's kind of like you both have skin in the game. It's like, all right, I'm 70 years old. I want to get out by 75, but in order to do that, I really got to train these guys. I got to bring them up to speed. And this company that I built, I don't want it to evaporate and go to waste. So I love the idea because you don't have to pull all that money from the bank or get a loan or do whatever, but also you can just work with the seller and really nurture that business and learn it and provide that handoff. I think that's the best thing is you work your whole life to build a company, and what do you do with it if no one wants to buy it? If no one wants to buy it, how do you take a one man shop that's paperless? No private equity is going to buy that.
Right.
No one's going to buy it because it has no systems in place. And so if you find someone that's willing to put in the work, I think it's hands down the best opportunity for young business owners trying to get into the game, strictly because they don't have to get a massive loan or a massive payment to buy a company.
Right. And I think that's an important note. If you have somebody who has, let's say, a full upfront offer where they can get a bunch of money and get out, and a seller financing offer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would have to think they'd be inclined to take the full upfront. So if you're looking to do that deal, that's not the company you go after. You go after somebody who doesn't have an opportunity to sell the business, because at least this option is significantly better than no option to get out.
Mhm.
One of the other things that you mentioned is having them stay on as an owner. I've never really heard that concept when I've been listening or reading stuff about seller financing. You never think about the value that that person still has. So just from listening to you, it's like, okay, what would I take away from that if I were to go and do this? Well, I would want them to have somewhere in the agreement, hey, over the next 4 or 5 years, we need to meet quarterly or weekly or whatever, so you can have that
Mhm.
period of knowledge transfer. So that's really good. Let's talk about the Marines and the lessons that that's brought to the business world. I'm sure there's a million that come to mind, but what value has having that title and that experience given you operating a business?
Um, I think back when I was in, I was like, oh, dude, I'm just gonna not ever say anything about my service or just kind of be quiet. And I mean, other veterans will have different opinions, but I think in specifically sales and running a business, I think it's important because it tells the story of you, right? At the end of the day, people are buying from people. They buy, from people who they like all the time. And so if you establish that trust, right, it helps build your story as a business owner. And so a lot of what it taught me was just simple shit like right place, right time, and make sure you got all the things you need. That's literally it. If you do that thing right there, those three steps, you will beat 90% of the people out there. Is just being on right place, you're on time, and you show up looking good, ready to go. Right. And you have all the things you need to get your job done. That right there is just a huge leap and bound from just regular people, average Joes on the day. in the world, right? And so that was the first thing. And then also, I think from especially being in the infantry, it taught me a lot about personal skills because you got to think about it. You know, a lot of these guys that join the infantry, like your job is to learn how to do warfare, right? Your job is to kill, and so these guys are coming from Iowa and Nebraska. They're also coming from New York City and the Bronx, or Dallas, Texas, or even from LA, East Los Angeles, like coming from the hood, like all over. We've had guys from everywhere. And so you really have to learn how people tick because you and I being from the same area, I can talk to you and I can feel comfortable in how I approach you on things. But if I approach someone else in a different area of a different walk of life, it's going to be a different conversation. And so the cultural melting pot of all of those things coming together, it taught me a lot about people. And luckily, I feel like I'm a very personable person in the first place, and so it was easy for me to treat people with respect and value because a lot of times those guys didn't have that. They didn't have that in their lives growing up, and so yeah, another big thing was people, learn how to do people, and then I'd say probably the third thing is, which is what really helped me with our managing like all of our roofing projects and managing crews and things like that, was being in like a squad leader role. I was a vehicle commander. I started off as a turret gunner, and that's kind of like, hey, the turret sees everything. It's the eyes of the whole vehicle, and so you always throw like a newer guy up there because you teach them how to shoot, and it's very fairly easy, but you start them off to learn the whole vehicle, and then you move into the vehicle, and then you become the vehicle commander. And so that's what I went to next. Is then I learned, hey, how do I employ everyone in this vehicle? And then you move to a section leader or squad leader. Now you got three vehicles. And so it taught me that pillar of how to manage and kind of stack people, also like gear and equipment, and moving them from places to A to B, and just kind of thinking of all the logistical things like that. And so that was a huge thing. Um, and then yeah, if I were to say one more like other thing, it'd probably be, I'm not afraid to approach someone. And so they really give you that confidence. If you take a normal person and they were to go through Marine Corps boot camp, they still may be a little bit nervous, but they'll be a lot better than the average Joe. But if you take someone who's already got a little bit of drive and confidence and put them through that, oh, it's just absolutely exponential. And most people who join the Marines, and I strictly say the Marines because, yeah, the Marines are the best branch. Um, Most people that go to the Marines are already very outgoing and very self driven. And so I feel like we take a lot of pride in that, and it allows me to feel confident in any situation I'm in, anyone who I talk to, because it's just kind of in my nature. Like, hey, I need to prepare for this conversation. Hey, I need to make sure that I don't look like shit presenting to a client. I need to make sure I'm polished up, right place, right time, everything you need, like we talked about earlier. And so it was it was a huge stepping stone from 21-year-old me with kind of no direction to now 27, almost going on 28, and now my brother and I own a roofing company together, and we're trying to make it grow.
That's great. We'll clip that for sure. Um, so, I mean, I had the same kind of experience. You said you were doing lawn landscaping at 13. I did the same exact thing. And I immediately noticed how important it was to do those. For me, it was I really only thought about the two things: right place, right time, showing up
Mhm.
on time. It's just talk a little bit more about doing the simple things the right way and how much that sets you apart. How many times do you hear somebody who's maybe they're remodeling their house and they've got a plumber coming over and they're, oh, the plumber didn't show up or this person didn't show up. All you know, the value of just showing up on time at the right place with all the things you need Expand on that a little bit more. And then I'm also curious how you distill that through your team, because for someone like you, it's very easy to do. It's in your nature where that's how you want to operate. But when you have an entire team of people, how do you kind of distill that message through them? And then I think that'll get us into the overall culture conversation as well.
Contracting in blue collar work, whether it's laying asphalt, or sorry, not asphalt, laying concrete, building decks, mowing your yard, putting a new roof on, whatever it is, right? Or any interior work. It's a very like roughneck industry, right? And it's salt of the earth guys, very heavily Hispanic as well, um, who who come into your home, but they're very old school, right? I know multiple guys who've been contractors for 30 years, and it's been friends' parents and stuff. And they're all paper. They do it their own way. Like, hey, he does good work, but you always hear the but factor, right? And so the simple things of being on time, doing exactly what you're told to do is a massive one. If you say you're going to do something in contracting, you do it. And if it's wrong, you just make it right. And doing those simple things like communication. Hey, I'm running 5 minutes late. I'll be right there. People appreciate that because you got to think about it. This is their home. And so a lot of people say, hey, I got a leak in my roof. I got this going on. They want to be there because the roof is a big deal. It's the biggest deal. It's the thing that protects everything in your home, right? And so they want to be there. And when you show up late, not on time, or you don't have the materials you need, or like, oh, well, I'm here, but I forgot my ladder, or oh, I forgot this, I forgot your color samples. Like those little things add up because those people take their time out of their day to cancel work, cancel events, do whatever, right? To be there. And so being on time and communicating with them is, again, you set yourself 90% apart of the industry because that's just how the industry is. These dudes live off sticky notes in their cars and a day planner and in their phone. And they forget to send emails, and sometimes they don't collect invoices. It's crazy the things that happen. And it's also happened to us because we've had to build systems and how to regulate these things, right? And so it just shows you like, hey, 90% of the industry is so many steps behind. And if you were to bring a genuine A+ customer service experience to an industry like home service businesses, you'd absolutely crush it. Absolutely crush it. And so that's our goal, is doing the little things differently, and then just being honest, being super honest about our work, what we do as a company, and then standing behind it. You know, hey, if we touch your roof and put a new roof on and it starts leaking 100%, I am so sorry. Is that should not happen. We'll be right over. People just want to be heard. People just want to be heard with their problems, and you know, if you just are honest, you do exactly what you're supposed to do, and you're squared away and give them a good service, it sets you apart. And then as far as like the team that we're building, and it's cool. We just had our we've had two interviews for people hiring our first employee, and one was for a production manager, and basically he would build our entire production side. And so everything that, from the phone call to, my uncle or I or my brother making the sale, we would hand that off to him, and he would be our quality control and customer service, excuse me, expert. And so how we're kind of instilling that in the team is we're just looking for people like that in general. And we also overpay what the industry is paying, because when you pay more, you get more. Everyone knows it, especially in this line of work. And so we're willing to pay more to get a better quality of, kind of a worker, because we want people with the same values. We want go-getters, and we want people who are honest and transparent. And if they mess something up, they're apologetic and they have empathy, and we take care of our customers. And so instilling that into the team should be very easy, because our interviewing process, we are already looking for candidates that possess that.
Hmm.
We're not just throwing out, my dad can speak along this. He's been helping a lot with the interview process. He's been the sole interviewer right now until they kind of make it past that second and third interview, right? Um, a lot of the people you get out there are just looking for an at home job where they can goof off and make 60 grand a year. You know what I mean, or 50 grand a year. And you put that out on Indeed, and you just don't get good quality candidates for things, and that's just the way it is. So I like to say we pay more, and but it's we expect more, and so instilling that onto the team is it should be a very easy transition because we want that person to match with our culture when we bring them in.
Hmm. It's like when you try to bring in a tenant, for example, for real estate, right? You're gonna the best way to have a good tenant that's gonna stay for a long time and be respectful is to have a very good vetting process. And so it's the same thing for an employee. And so for people who are kind of at that stage where, hey, it's time to hire my first person, I would say try to think about what are the questions you can ask that will pull out the insights of whether or not this person has the values that you care about. And for the trades, I think what we've talked about here is kind of the most important, being on time, being responsive, communicating. I think that was a great thing you mentioned there. Like you said, just saying, hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. Someone who's operating today might think, oh, it's 5 minutes. Nobody cares if you're 5 minutes late. You're right. They probably don't care. But if you text them and say you're going to be 5 minutes late, it shows how much you care. So
It's
love that
little
point.
things, man. And especially too, you got to think about it. What age bracket do you think homeowners are nowadays?
Hmm.
Probably over 45, fit into their 50s, right? Tell you one thing right now, a 60-year old guy who's retired has nothing better to do than to be on time to his own appointment at his house. And so if you're 2 minutes late, man, he's hitting your lineup saying, "Hey, where are you guys at?" So he's got nothing else to do. Have you guys hired anyone yet? Are you guys looking at employees?
Yeah, we've done a few more of kind of like the offshore talent or people through Fiverr and everything, and we've scaled that down so it's more of a closer knit group. And I think that is another thing we've learned as well is yes, it's good to have cheap labor at times, but like you said, the value of paying more for the right candidate is significantly better. You just don't have to go through all the headaches that come with it. One thing you mentioned, and again, it's kind of doing the simple things, is not being on paper. How much, and you keep talking about how the industry operates on, a pen and paper and emails or, just the simple stuff. How much can just a little bit of technology come in and help a business, especially if you're going down the seller financing route where you have an old business owner just coming in and saying, hey, here's 4 to 5 new technologies. How much can that change the way the business operates?
Oh man, dude, I got a rap sheet for you on this question. So, I'll keep it simple. I don't want to go too far into the weeds with it, but first thing I can think of is measurements on a roof, right? No one, you don't really know too much about roofing, right?
No.
But you got to know, hey, we got to figure out the square footage at least, figure out how big it is, right? Technology. It takes us $20 to pull a satellite now, and it gives us everything square footage. It gives us all of the rakes and the eaves. It gives us underlayment square footage so we can pick products and basically make like 75% of those material lists already. My uncle, how I started my first week in this job, we went over to Prairie Village on a 1 story house, and I popped up on a ladder and I took my tape measure from one side all the way to the other, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then I measured from, the runs all the way down. Okay, there's my square footage. Then I counted all the other things. I counted how many pipes, how many chimneys there were, skylights, and I just went down the list all on paper, right? And I didn't even know if I was going to get the job. And so then I'm putting the expandable file, and I'm putting it in just like back in 8th grade. All right, homework done file. It's my files, right? And I put it back in there, and then it would just fill up after a week because it's summertime in July, especially during storm season. Dude, I'm doing like 15 to 30 bids a week. Like I'm killing trees at that point. And the first thing from just going automated is I only use my tape measure to measure windows now, or maybe just to check small little things. I'm never really having to, I still get up on top of roofs, obviously, to go check things, but I'm not spending 45 minutes measuring a roof out. And then also my expandable file, it's gone. I don't even use it anymore because everything is hooked into our CRM. And so whenever I put something on a Google Calendar or my CRM as far as an appointment, they sync. And so everything's my business and personal life is all on my phone. My uncle had a day planner. He still does. He'll never get rid of it. Same thing. He has a file cabinet. I don't have a file cabinet anymore because things are all digital, right? Another big one was he used to have to go back and get pictures of stuff and say, "Oh, I forgot to get a picture at this house. We're trying to match a shingle color to the neighbor's house. This, and that." Company Cam is a CRM, or I think it's a CRM. It's an app that a lot of blue collar and service industry businesses use. You take photos, it spits into the cloud. You pay for a subscription each year, and you can access it at any time, and it doesn't take data up on your phone. It's phenomenal. So even today, like we can look back and say, "Hey, I don't know, Susie's shingle color." Be like, "Oh, well, when I did her inspection, here's all of her photos." And then now I don't have to go drive back out there and do that. 7 months ago, tape measures, no pictures, nothing was automated. As far as AI, we have AI doing all of our stuff now, like a lot of our stuff. It's still got a little bit of tweaks in it. My brother's the huge driving force behind that. I haven't done anything with it at all. So, but those changes as far as AI, digital measurements, digital scheduling, putting everything pretty much in the cloud, it has it has made my life so much easier. Because a lot of these things get made easy. It's like, oh, I got to make a load list for a house. We used to go back down there. We used to go back and get a graph sheet and write down everything. Now I just have it automated, right? And so those little things, your time is money as a business owner too. And so um, yeah, those things right there have drastically changed our efficiency and how we've operated too. And I'll tell you, if you're ever going to be a business owner and go from paper to digital, strap in because it's a ride. So have fun.
Yeah, definitely. I can't imagine that was easy whatsoever, but I do think for when you have this scenario in the market where there's so many older business owners and there's so many young entrepreneurs who are reading the Main Street Millionaire and who are wanting to do this, that is such an important insight of some of the value you can find in a business. Don't just necessarily look at the revenues and look at the bottom line, but look at what can you automate in the processes. Is there different things you can do to be 10 times more efficient with just a few simple technologies? You have done stuff with the insurance side of things. Obviously, roofing and insurance play hand in
Yeah.
hand. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? You have insurance agents as, a page on your website. Tell me how you're involved in the insurance world.
So right now, what we do is basically we have a homeowner that comes in and they say, "Hey, I've had roofers knocking on my door. I've noticed roofs getting done in the neighborhood. I see some dings to my windows." And basically, we just come in and we take an assessment of it and we guide them through that process. So it's kind of like hiring a consultant a little bit, right? And so what we'll do is we will give them our 2 cents on what we think they should do. And if we feel there's enough damage on that house to call their adjuster, their desk adjuster, um, we will tell them, "Hey, listen, we're seeing dings in your gutters, on your window screens, on your garage door, on your grills, your fences, and we looked on top of your roof and all your shingles destroyed." Right? We don't just start with the roof. We always start from the ground floor, right? And so that as an exterior company, a lot of roofers are saying, "Oh no, I just want to do the roof," right? And that's fine and all. We do that a lot where we just do the roof or we do gutters and maybe some windows, and then they get money for their fence and everything else. But um, we come in and make an assessment and say, hey, you should call your insurance company. And then when they call them out, an adjuster will come out to look at the damage, and then we are that face-to-face interaction with that adjuster. And we say, hey, listen, we saw it on the east side of the house here. We saw it on these areas here. He is just a reporter. He takes pictures and sends it back to the company, and then the company makes the decision. Um, and now that's where it gets tricky. You're kind of in that game now to where the homeowner has a decision to make. They either sign with us to hire us on as like kind of a consultant, and we guide them through the process to either one, get the roof fully covered minus their deductible. So it's just like when you crash a car, right? You crash your car, you take it into the repair shop, and they say, all right, your deductible is $1,000, pay me $1,000, and then your insurance pays for the rest of it. Same thing with a roof, right? And so we guide them through that process as far as getting it covered. If it's fully covered, great. It's really easy for us. A lot of companies are awesome, and we come in and they say, "Hey, listen, this roof is thrashed. We're going to cover the whole thing," and it's super easy for us. And we can just come in, take the insurance paperwork, and we do all the trades that Maverick can do, whether it's roof, windows, gutters, all of it. But let's say they don't cover it. Let's say they're like Allstate or State Farm or one of the big companies that doesn't cover that. We do what a lot of other bigger companies do, and it's called a supplementation process. And what that means is we go around the whole entirety of the property. We chalk it up on the soft metals, on all of your gutters, on your garage doors. We take pictures. We draw chalk marks on the impacts of the shingle, and we say, "Hey, you only covered a third of this roof. BS. Here's all the evidence." And then that's when we, as a consultant, try to get that entire thing fully covered. Um, and so it can be very stressful. It can also take anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks to even get it wrapped up from start to finish. There's a client I'm working with now. We started in June or July, and we weren't wrapped up until start of November with all of his compensation for things, and we're just now doing his roof. And so you can start the roof at first if the homeowner's comfortable with it and the process you're doing, but for the most part, a lot of people wait until 90% of their insurance claim is almost finalized until they start their projects. But long story short is we're your consultant. We guide you through um, how to navigate the insurance's policies because they're changing homeowners insurance from RCV, which is a replacement cost, to actual cash value. And for people who don't know what that is, basically you're either paying your deductible, but now they're switching over to you're paying your deductible, but your roof depreciates a certain amount of percentage each year. And so after 20 years, you get a hailstorm, they're gonna be like, here's 2 grand for your roof. And you're gonna be like, well, WDF, what the fuck? And so you're like, okay, well now people don't know that those policies are changing. And so a lot of our real estate deals we do right now, the house is 15 years old. What insurance companies are doing now is they're not even covering a roof if they're over 15 years old. They're saying, oh, nope, that roof is 16 and a half years old. Based off of this install date, we will not cover it. And so people are forced to replace their roof, right? And so having the knowledge and keeping your nose to the ground, your ear to the ground of the industry, you have to be very spot on and polished with insurance. Um, and that is the one thing I've gotten really good at. Is a lot of my clients I've dealt with this year have been through insurance. And the retail side is really easy, but insurance specifically, uh, it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of time. But that's why we have administrational assistants and people who do those supplementations for getting a whole roof covered for us, and I don't have to spend time on that. It's usually either outsourced or someone does it in house.
So you mentioned that you guys are doing a lot of different stuff with AI. Walk me through, and maybe you don't have, the most level of expertise, but generally speaking, how are you thinking about applying AI in a trades business?
Um, yeah, Jack's definitely got way more on this. From what he was just talking about, I think this is kind of cool. he is taking all of the information on certain jobs and putting it into a database and having it so we can teach people certain scenarios later. Um, like I think there was one with a window. Yeah, there was one last week with a window to where like the brick, it was around brick, and so this brick came apart, and so he's putting these things into the system to basically, if one of our assistants were to ask AI in our system, it can tell you, hey, per this case, this is what happened here, right? So that's one thing. Another thing too is syncing things, like estimate creating, material orders, also the apps talking to each other, like automations, shooting off automated text messages, and things like that. Uh, those have been really, really big with us as far as efficiency. Also, sales and marketing side, I think this one's huge, is realtor databases. So having a whole database of real estate agents that we can kind of hit an email campaign on, or we also just have their information to send them cards or to reach out and network. Um, using that tool to kind of using that tool to kind of get us in the door as far as a marketing and sales point, it's been huge. And then also another one for kind of insurances, we have a hail map. So whenever a house that's in our system gets hit by hail, AI will ding it on a system. And so if a hailstorm comes in on our app or in our area, it'll send it straight to our system and say, hey, these 15 houses that you roofed in the past 10 or 15 years just got hit. Here's all the client's information. Boom. It sends things out. So that's pretty cool. We haven't utilized that yet. But I think it's close to being there. But
I mean, your uncle's got to be pretty blown away with all these things going
oh, he has
from.
no idea. He has zero idea. That's all Jack. I mean, Jack's doing all of that here in the office, and he's constantly talking to it, and he stays up really late at night trying to figure things out and how to implement it. And um, I mean, hell, he just even just uses it to learn
Right.
about the industry, and a lot of people do that. But my uncle has no idea. The minute that you say anything with computer technology, his ear turns off, and he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. That's not, I don't know, I don't care, kind of thing.
Does Jack have a technical background at all, or? And the reason I ask that is just because I have done so much with AI and I have no technical background. And I think so many people, when they think AI, they think they have to be some coding wizard. When in reality, the amount of tools that exists out there to be able to go in from zero knowledge of how any of it works to automating a full system, it's not easy. All you have to do though is put in the work, and then you can have AI tell you how to implement the AI. And so,
Yeah,
does he have a technical background?
he started making videos when he was really young in high school, and I think that kind of drove. That was new. That was like back in the day, like getting your old camcorder and like doing old jackass videos or something was like that was really technological of people to do. And I think he started there, and then he started editing videos for when he was a yacht captain, and so that kind of led him into that realm a little bit. And this is all just me speaking for him, but yeah, I think it's mostly self-taught. It just when you're interested in something and it's cool and you have a common and a genuine interest about something, your mind kind of will be like, I want to go learn about that, And so I think he really um, just grabbed onto that and just put his foot on the gas. And like he loves crypto, loves AI, he loves all those things. And so I think it's all been self-taught of just reading articles and um, yeah, it's 100% self-taught,
That's
and
awesome.
he definitely doesn't
So
have a computer engineering degree if that's what you're asking. So
right, right. And that's the point I want to drive home for people is you don't need to be an expert to become an expert. Nobody
no,
who is an expert started that way. So if you want to learn how to do it, just start doing it. Look up a YouTube video and get to work.
it's
Where do you
exposure. It's all about exposure, man. Just getting, if you're doing things and you want to learn something, you just got to keep doing it, and eventually it'll stick to it. I mean, like you said, people start at all different skill levels, and um, yeah, you just gotta get reps. That's it, repetition.
Yep. Where do you see this going within the next maybe do 5 years, and then if you have sort of a longer term goal, lay that out. But what does the future look like for you?
Yeah, 5 years, definitely. We're doing at least $10 million in revenue a year. Um, would love to have a full office staff of, whether it's five, six employees, seven, because you can do the $10 million company. You don't need too many people, uh, but that would change our life 100%. It would take me, yeah, it would absolutely change our life. 5 years, 10 years, I'd love to be double that, and then one day either we would love to, sell it when we retire or pass it on to our kids or to whoever. But I think the goal for me, personally, with Maverick too, because we all kind of have different areas that we look in. Where my dad's in finance, and Jack's in marketing and the tech side of things, and I'm kind of in sales production area. um, I just want to grow it. I want to see it grow. I want it to be like ours as a family's, to where we're really proud of what we built, and kind of hold on to that. Because I mean, if it makes me $1 million every year, why would I sell it? Because if it's a one day we want to sell it for X amount of dollars, but I'm making a phenomenal living every year, and um, I don't know why I would sell it. Why we would sell it to anyone if it's successful. You know, I'm looking at a career now. I got out of the military. I thought I was going to be in the military for a lot longer, but I was tired of not getting paid anything, and so now we have an opportunity to actually like provide and really build something, and it's just fun. It's just so much fun. It's been stressful and it's been ups and downs, but it's been fun. So I think our goal is to build it and grow it and keep growing it, but not lose quality. I think that's the biggest thing, is to give the customers the best service we can. Because I would love to look back one day and the company's just running itself, and I'm sitting in on some meetings every now and then, but for the most part, I got my feet up and I'm hanging out with my kids, or I'm traveling, or I'm actually able to like live life. I think that's the ultimate goal, is to build something great, but nurture it and eventually let it just run itself, so that I can have a good life, better life.
If people want to reach out to you, where can they find you both personally and for Maverick? And then who do you want to reach out to? Obviously, homeowners, but you have partners and real estate agents, insurance agents. Where can they find you, and who do you want to find you?
Yeah, you can find us at maverickexteriourskc.com. We also have an Instagram, Maverick Exteriors KC. Yeah, you can reach us at 913-268-6052. Is our main line. We do typically over 100 roofs a year for real estate agents, and so we're trying to get embedded with insurance adjusters, real estate agents, because they're the ones who are constantly, they're going to houses with damage, and so they could talk to the homeowner and be like, "Hey, I know you called me to adjust your roof, but I have a good roofer in my pocket. It's Maverick. Here's their business card." Real estate agents, "Hey, Susie's selling her house. She needs the roof done. Oh, well, me as a real estate agent, I have a roofer for you. Here you go." And so a lot of our clientele is property owners, yeah, property owners, real estate agents, and then the third one that we haven't really tapped into yet is insurance adjusters. Is It's just repeat business, and also that's their living too. Being an adjuster, being a real estate agent, they have to constantly, they're put on timelines, and there's always a dollar amount to them, whether it's selling a house or they're getting insurance money. And so networking with those three types of people is huge. It honestly drives 75% of our business, and that's been our goal. I guess this would tie into to our goals in the next 5 to 10 years, was to really grow our real estate and our realtor networking kind of database to be the roofer of choice for a real estate agent. Um, because there's a lot that realtor goes down the list of selling that house or buying the house, and they're going, okay, we're calling HVAC, we're calling the roofer, we're calling the foundation guy, we're calling interior plumber. They're going down that punch list, and so when you're able, and the roof is a big part about buying or selling a house. If when you're able to come in there and turn and burn it in a week, and then they sell the house, pay you at closing, they you come out smelling like roses, and they love you because you're meeting their timelines. Um, and if you find a good realtor, they're sometimes selling four, five, six houses a month, and a couple of those are going to need new roofs. And so it's a great business model to live by if you're willing to kind of go down that route. Because you could chase a lot of realtors who don't know what they're doing, and that's kind of a big thing about us is Bob, with being in kind of the roofing and real estate industry, and all of his kids are real estate agents too, and all my cousins are. And so being able to educate a real estate agent on how to get to the closing table faster, how to navigate all the boundaries with selling that house, taking considerations of things they didn't take in before, because a lot of roofing companies will come in and just say, "Oh, yep, you need a new roof. Here's the price," and then they wonder why they don't have repeat business, right? And so the biggest driving factor in how we grow is repeat business. And so property owners, real estate agents, insurance adjusters, those three, they are constantly putting pellets and putting fuel in your fire to keep you running. And it's great networking too. I love I love the real estate agents who I deal with. You actually know I'm not going to drop names on here, but you know a couple of them from Rockers from KU, and so it's been great doing business with those guys because they're turning and burning houses, and I'm able to come in and slap a good roof on them for a good price, and it takes care of their clients, but it also keeps us in business too. And so that model has been huge, and I'm really looking forward to expanding that because at the end of the day, we want to just take care of people. And so if you can teach a realtor how to sell more houses and be more crafty, they're going to love you and they're going to toss you more business. And so if you find the right match with the person to work with, as far as like a roofer and a real estate agent, it's you guys are both doing really well. And so it's a good, very, very good relationship. My uncle's been he's been roofing probably like six or seven real estate agents' houses for the last 15 to 20 years. And that's how long they've been roofing and doing business together. And you got to think about just those seven people, how many roofs they bring in a year. We looked at, one guy and one gal. It was like, hey, they brought Bob 15 roofs that year. He brought Bob like 17, 20 roofs last year because he was his guy.
Hmm.
And it's like that model of repeat business, consistent customer service as far as the real estate transaction and the homeowner once the roof gets put on. That model is kind of what we're going for.